striking targets deep inside hostile territory at Mach 1.2. Supersonic bombers systematically dismantle air defense before Allied forces cross the border. As we rank the 10 most powerful U.S. Air Force weapons, we divide superiority through strategic reach and irreversible strike capability, measuring how far a system projects power and how definitively it neutralizes threats. Let's begin with number 10. At number 10, the GPU-43B MOAB. This massive munition initiates an enormous blast wave over a wide area, specifically designed to crush complex tunnel networks and mountain caves, delivering an explosive yield equivalent to 11 tons of TNT. The weapon violently displaces oxygen and obliterates subterranean structures that smaller bombs fail to penetrate. By dropping a single weapon weighing 21,900 pounds, commanders can instantly vaporize entrenched enemy strongpoints. This sudden detonation creates an overwhelming physiological shock. However, this system requires highly permissive airspace because it must be deployed from slow-moving cargo aircraft. This operational limitation restricts its strategic reach compared to standoff weapons, making it highly vulnerable against modern anti-aircraft networks. Despite this vulnerability, its deployment permanently alters the local battlefield geography. When utilized in mountainous regions, the ensuing detonation guarantees total target destruction, establishing a baseline of irreversible strike capability. This massive explosive clears the path for ground operations. At number 9, the MQ-9 Reaper. While the MOAB delivers a localized and singular blaze, the Reaper escalates our metric of strategic reach and irreversible strike capability by providing persistent armed surveillance over contested region for up to 27 hours. Operating at medium altitudes, these unmanned platforms utilize high-resolution infrared sensors to track fleeting targets across expansive battlefields. Once a hostile convoy is identified, the drone directly engages the threat using a payload of up to 4,000 pounds. It eliminates moving hostile armor with zero advanced warning. The platform's major limitation lies in its acoustic signature and lack of defensive countermeasures. In heavily defended airspace, radar systems easily track and intercept the drone, forcing commanders to rely on it primarily for irregular warfare environments rather than near-peer conflicts. Yet, its continuous overhead presence denies the enemy any freedom of movement. By merging real-time intelligence gathering with immediate strike capability, the Reaper continuously dictates the tempo of asymmetrical engagements. At number 8, the F-15E Strike Eagle. Surpassing the Reaper's vulnerable, the Strike Eagle introduces genuine survivability into our metric of strategic reach and irreversible strike capability. This dual-role fighter pushes deep into hostile territory using conformal fuel tanks, retaining formidable air-to-air lethality while executing low-altitude ground attacks. While utilizing advanced targeting pods and ground mapping radar, the weapons system officer pinpoints critical infrastructure in pitch-black conditions. This dual-role capability shatters enemy supply lines overnight, carrying a heavy payload of guided munitions alongside an internal 20mm cannon. The aircraft sequentially dismantles fortified bunkers and defends itself against interceptors during the extraction phase. However, its lack of modern stealth shaping generates a significant radar cross-sections. Against advanced surface-to-air missile batteries, the aircraft must rely entirely on electronic warfare jamming rather than low observability, increasing the risk of detection during deep interdiction missions. Even with a visible radar profile, Its unmatched combination of heavy ordnance and dogfighting pedigree forces defending forces into an impossible defensive postures. The sheer volume of precision fire it delivers permanently cripples adversarial logistics networks. Number 7. The F-52 Stratofortress. Taking strategic reach and irreversible strike capability to an intercontinental scale, this heavy bomber eclipses the operational radius of tactical fighters. Operating as a high-altitude arsenal ship, the massive 8-engine aircraft transport up to 70,000 pounds of mixed ordnance across vast oceans. Flying an unrefueled distance of over 8,800 miles, it delivers a relentless barrage of cruise missiles and gravity bombs against widely dispersed targets. This sheer volume of firepower flattens entire military installations. Despite its legendary endurance, its massive subsonic airframe presents a glaring vulnerability. The bomber possesses absolutely no stealth capabilities, meaning it cannot survive inside the engagement zones of modern air defense networks and must release its weapons from safe standoff distance. When launching long-range cruise missiles from beyond radar coverage, it overwhelms enemy interception grids through pure saturation. This global deployment flexibility allows allied commanders to project continuous kinetic pressure onto any continents. The capacity to loiter for hours and decimate multiple grid squares cements its role as the ultimate airborne artillery platforms. At number 6, the P-1P Lancer. While the P-52 relies on standoff distance, the Lancer aggressively advances our metric of strategic reach and irreversible strike capability through high-speed penetration. Utilizing a variable sweep wing design and afterburning turbofan engines, this supersonic bomber breaches hostile airspace by racing at low altitudes. Traveling at speeds approaching Mach 1.2, it evades early warning radars by masking its approach within the terrain. It delivers absolute devastation before sirens even active. Boasting the largest conventional payload in the fleet, it carries up to 75,000 pounds of guided munitions within its massive internal bomb base. During rapid response scenarios, the aircraft transitions from high-altitude cruise to a low-level supersonic dash, dropping a concentrated stream of ordnance that completely obliterates armored divisions. The primary limitation of this heavy bomber involves its massive maintenance requirements and lack of nuclear certification in its modern configuration. Furthermore, while it penetrates faster than legacy bombers, it still lacks the radar-absorbent materials required to survive against next-generation integrated air defense. Regardless, its ability to compress the timeline between target identification and massive kinetic impact fundamentally disrupt adversarial battle plans. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next breakdown, and leave a like if this topic has been useful so far. Also drop a comment on what we should cover next. At number 5, the KC-135 Stratotanker. By offloading thousands of pounds of jet fuel per minute via its flying boom, this heavily modified 4-engine aircraft transformed regional combat operation into genuine global campaigns. Without this critical mid-air refueling mechanism, deep penetration strikes and prolonged bomber patrols would immediately cease to exist. It transfers essential fuel to keep attack squadrons airborne. By receiving fuel mid-flight, a fighter jet can continuously loiter over a contested battlefield for hours instead of returning to base. The glaring limitation of the tanker is its complete lack of defensive armament and extreme flammability. It represents a massive, slow-moving radar target that must operate far behind the front lines to avoid being easily destroyed by a long-range interceptor missile. By projecting aerial dominance across oceans, The tanker ensures that Allied forces never suffer from fuel starvation during critical engagements. Its quiet presence behind the combat zone fundamentally guarantees that the sheer weight of American air power can reach any coordinate on the globe. At number 4, the F-35 Lightning II. This multirole fighter introduces unprecedented survivability inside heavily defended airspace. It seamlessly combines advanced stealth shaping with extreme agility, achieving a 5G maneuvering capability while remaining virtually invisible to early warning systems. Through comprehensive sensor fusion, the aircraft absorbs data from radar and infrared cameras to project an unified battlefield map directly into the pilot's helmet display. This networked intelligence completely blinds defending surface-to-air batteries. By covertly penetrating constellation zones, the fighter autonomously designates targets and shares that precise telemetry with older, non-stealth aircraft orbiting safely behind it. This creates a lethal web of situational awareness where the stealth fighter acts as an unseen quarterback, directing devastating strikes without exposing its own position. However, this advanced technology comes with a strike payload limitation. To maintain its stealth profile, the fighter must carry its weapon internally, severely restricting the total volume of ordnance it can bring into an engagement compared to a traditional bomb trucks. Despite limited internal carriage, its ability to systematically dismantle anti-access umbrellas guarantees operational freedom from the rest of the coalition. The sheer technological superiority of its data links forces adversaries to fight blind. At number 3, the F-22 Raptor. While the Lightning excels at multirole strike networking, the Raptor masters our metric of strategic reach and irreversible strike capability by enforcing absolute air supremacy. Designed explicitly to dominate aerial combat, this twin-engine fighter blends an exceptionally low radar cross-section with sustained supersonic flight, known as supercruise. It sprints across the battle space without relying on fuel-draining afterburners, ensuring it can intercept hostile formations long before they pose a threat. It eliminates enemy fighters before they even detect danger. During complex engagements, the stealth fighter leverages its extreme maneuverability and advanced avionics to dictate the geometry of the battle. By operating undetected at high altitudes, the pilot tracks multiple adversary aircraft simultaneously and launches beyond visual range missiles with absolute precision. This creates an impenetrable wall of air defense that absolutely shreds hostile squadron without mercy. The primary limitation of these air superiority platforms is its specialized focus and halted production line. Because its avionics architecture is older and highly isolated, it struggles to seamlessly share raw tactical data with modern coalition networks, restricting its utility in complex ground attack coordination. Yet, when deployed to neutralize a sophisticated air force, its presence unilaterally dictates the rules of engagement. By completely sanitizing the skies of hostile interceptors, the Raptor secures the vital airspace required for all subsequent bombing campaigns to succeed. At number 2, the P-2 Spirit. Fusing a radar-evading invisibility of a stealth fighter with the massive payload capacity of a heavy bomber, the Spirit pushes our metric of strategic reach and irreversible strike capability to a terrifying extreme. This revolutionary flying wing design bypasses the most sophisticated air defense grids on the planet. Launching from domestic spaces, the aircraft flies over 6,000 nautical miles unrefueled, effortlessly extending its journey to 10,000 nautical miles through mid-air tanking. It bypasses massive hostile radar network entirely undetected. operating deep within highly contested territory. The bomber opened its internal base, unleashed up to 20 tons of conventional or nuclear ordnance. When tasked with destroying high-value command bunkers or subterranean nuclear facilities, it loiters silently above the target and drops massive bunker-busting munitions with pinpoint accuracy. The adversary experienced a catastrophic series of explosions without ever painting a hostile aircraft on their radar screen. The bomber's critical limitation remains its extreme fragility against the elements and exorbitant operational costs, and specialized radar-absorbent coating requires climate control hangar and intensive maintenance, meaning it can rapidly forward deploy to austere airstrips during a suddenly escalating conflict. Regardless of its maintenance footprints, its capacity to conduct surprise decapitation strikes against heavily guarded capitals makes it uniquely devastating. By holding an enemy's most critical strategic assets at risk from thousands of miles away, the bomber serves as an insurmountable physiological and kinetic deterrent. The singular platforms guarantees that no hostile leader can ever truly hide their essential military infrastructure from American air power. At number 1, LGM-30G Minuteman III. Surpassing every airborne platforms in existence, this intercontinental ballistic missile represents the absolute apex for our metric, delivering infinite strategic reach and the ultimate irreversible strike capability. Buried deep within hardened underground silos and maintained on constant alert, this three-stage solid-fuel rocket forms the unbreakable land-based leg of the nuclear triad. Upon receiving verified presidential authorization, the missile erupts from the Earth and exists in the atmosphere, carrying multiple thermonuclear warheads across distances exceeding 6,000 miles. It delivers absolute global annihilation in a matter of minutes. As the re-entry vehicles detect, plummet toward their designated coordinates, they achieve terminal velocities around Mach 23. At this blistering speed, no existing defensive system can reliably intercept the incoming strike. The ensuing detonation instantly vaporizes entire metropolitan areas and permanently erases adversarial command structure. Because hundreds of these missiles remain perpetually ready for immediate launch, they guarantee a devastating retaliatory blow even if the homeland suffers a preemptive attack. The absolute limitation of this weapon is its extreme finality and lack of conventional utility. Once the launch sequence completes, the missile cannot be recalled, redirected, or deactivated, making it entirely useless for tactical warfare or limited regional conflicts. Yet, the terrifying permanence is precisely why it dominates the global battlefield. The sheer inevitability of its flight path deters nuclear aggression before it can ever begin. By ensuring that any attack against allied nations results in immediate and unpreventable destruction, this ballistic missile fundamentally dictates the balance of global power. It stands unmatched as the most fearsome weapon in the arsenal. The unyielding readiness of this underground network forces adversarial nations to recognize that any major escalation will result in their own absolute demise. It silently protects global stability through the promise of overwhelming, unstoppable force. We have explored how modern air power relies on fast projection and devastating impact, from the cruising place of massive conventional bombs to the invisible precision of the penetrating stealth fighters. The ability to control the battlefield from the sky remains the foundation of modern military strategy. The LGM-30G Minuteman III definitively claims the number 1 position because its hypersonic re-entry speed and intercontinental range completely bypass all known air defense, guaranteeing a catastrophic strike that no adversaries can possibly survive? Do you believe the future of air superiority relies more on advanced stealth technology or sheer hypersonic speed and heavy payload? If you found this breakdown useful, make sure to subscribe and leave a like to support the channel. What's the next video that appears on the screen right now?